Good evening. Today's date is June 27th, 2019, and welcome to the Orleans Parish School Board General Board Business Meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. I have asked for a roll call, please.
Mr. Ashley,
Present.
Mr. Brown, Ms. Ellison,
Here.
Mr. Cleveland,
Here.
Mr. Koppel, Mr. Marshall,
Here.
Ms. New Houston. Also present is Dr. Henderson Lewis Jr. and Skylar Rosenblum, Board Counsel. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And also for the record, the time now is 5:31. We have interpretation services. Where are you guys? Can you please come up to the front?
Muy buenas tardes. Si hay alguien que va a necesitar servicios de interpretación en español, por favor levanten la mano, así le podemos proporcionar unos auriculares. Gracias.
Chào toàn thể quý vị, tôi tên là Việt, tôi là thông dịch viên. Nếu quý vị cần thông dịch tiếng Việt, xin cho tôi biết. Tôi sẵn sàng giúp quý vị. Cảm ơn.
Thank you. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to a republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda?
I move that the board consider action items 7.1 and 7.2 in advance of the first and second readings.
Okay. A motion has been laid on the table to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second to amend the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objection? No objection. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Motion passes. Item 2.1, approval of the minutes from the board meetings held on May 21st and June 6th. Are there any changes?
I move that we accept the minutes as printed.
Is there a second?
Second. Second. Don't waive the reading.
Waiving the reading of the
Mi-
minutes?
Yes.
Okay. A motion has been laid on the table and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? No objection. Item passes. I'll turn it over to the superintendent. Item number 3.1.
Thank you, Vice President Ellison. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we will begin by celebrating student success. We will have the Robert Royal Foundation here to award several scholarships to recent graduates from our schools. Mr. Royal, he's homegrown, a product of Orleans Parish Public Schools, and has had a robust career in the National Football League, or as we know, the NFL. Mr. Royal, can you please come forward and present the scholarship to our students? Thank you.
First of all, thank you guys for having us. We want to start this thing off. Let's give a round of applause for all our young graduates. They did a tremendous job. It definitely starts with them, right? For you guys that don't know, my name is Robert Royal, and this is my beautiful half, my wife, Tanika Royal, and we are the founders of the Robert Royal Foundation. And we started the foundation a year after Hurricane Katrina. One of my goals, obviously, I grew up right here in Algiers. I went to Etna Carr High School and went to LSU for college. One of my main goals is, when I had the opportunity to make it out of New Orleans and do some things, I wanted to make sure I came back to the community, the same community that helped me, raise me as a young man, to make sure I come back and do the same and help out. So over the years, we've been very fortunate. We're now going into our 13th year. We've been a nonprofit now for 8 or 9 years. And over the years, I was fortunate. My beautiful half always been into fitness. And when we started seeing the obesity rates and stuff down here in New Orleans, she was fortunate enough where she created a program called Fit Kids. PHIT is the acronym, and it stands for Physical Health Innovative Training. And so what we do now is we get kids to come out to Berman Stadium during our wellness weekend, and we try to find different cool ways where they come out and do some physical activity, whether that's tug of war, whether that's dance. We know a lot of our kids like to dance. We do non-contact football, cheer. We even got to the point where we have vendors out there to make sure that we can keep the parents engaged. So we do everything from hurricane evacuation, safety tips, high blood pressure screenings, gum disease, prevention stuff. We even partnered up with Children's Hospital for the last 8 years, where we go in and do a beautiful day with the kids and their family that's real critically ill. We've been at Bridge City Juvenile Detention Home back in the day before they closed down. So our main goal is to try to impact the community as many ways as possible. So now a second tier to that was trying to make sure that not only they physically fit, but also have affordable housing, and to make sure that financial literature is one of the things that we speak upon. So we was fortunate to raise some funds, and we want to make sure that those funds go in the right direction by supporting the youth that done a tremendous job. And so if you guys, I highly encourage you, if you haven't gotten a checking account yet or a savings account, you can go ahead and take this check that we will give you. Start, you guys, learn how the process go. I know a lot of the stuff nowadays online with apps and stuff, you can click on it. You don't have to be old school like us where you're writing in the balances and checkbooks, but it's very important for you guys to understand the way money works. When you guys go off to college, you guys have a significant opportunity to not only impact yourselves, but your community, your families, and everyone else. But there comes responsibility with that. You got to understand taxation. You got to understand money. So we want to make sure that not only are we trying to have you guys physically fit, we want you guys mentally sharp as well. So with that being said, we know this agenda going to continue to move on. So at this point, we'll start calling up the kids. Once you guys come up here, let's kind of step here. I want to make sure that you guys shake the board member's hand and thank those guys for putting this on. Without them, none of this stuff is possible. So at this time, we'll start calling out the kids to come up here and receive the scholarship. First, we have Tori Green. You stay up there, T. Next, we have Kayla Thompson. What's up, Kayla? Great job. Next, we have Durant Singleton. Good job. Now we have Clarence Dabney. Next, we have Larry Smith. And last but not least, we got Kevin Green. Kevin. We also have Kwanzaa Lavis. Sorry about that. Want to make sure I get you right. I think that's it at the present moment. Thank you guys so much. We'll go up here and take some pictures.
Let's give our graduates another round of applause. And thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Royer for supporting our youth. And I'll turn it over to Vice President Ellison for additional comments.
Just want to also thank, there's also some administrators from Algiers Charter School who's also in the audience. Thank you for supporting our children. And to those parents, the grandparents, the relatives that are affiliated with our graduates, we also thank you for always supporting our young people. And our young people, stand up again. One more time. And so, on behalf of the Orleans Parish School Board, we would like to congratulate you on your success. And we know that we're going to see much, much more come out of this. This is only the beginning. And as Mr. Rawls said, this is a deposit. Take that deposit of that $500 and start some sort of fund and make it grow for you and watch it grow. So again, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing what other endeavors you have in life. And thank you again. And to Mr. Royal and his beautiful wife, stand up again. Thank you for giving back to this community.
Thank you.
You know, there are many people that succeed out of this community and they don't come back and give back. But you have never forgotten where you came from and where you started. You started in Algiers. Your career began at Etna Carr as a football player, and I'm sure probably playing ballpark and sports and what have you. But again, thank you for coming back to this community and never forgetting this community. You've continued to come back even when you moved away. You've always come back and said thank you to the community and given back with money. And that's important, your time and money. So to you and your wife, again, thank you, thank you, thank you for always recognizing this community. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Ellison. This has been a tremendous legislative session for public education in New Orleans, including the passage of House Bill 393, which represents the district's primary legislative proposal that was approved by both the House and Senate. The passage of House Bill 393 proves what can be done when local and state officials work together to do what is best for students, for schools, teachers, and families. House Bill 393 will now bring approximately $10 million to New Orleans public school classroom and citywide needs. Later in the meeting, we will ask the board to take action in line with House Bill 393 by waiving policy DCBA. Such action will allow us to direct a portion of the money from House Bill 393 to schools and programs in the most effective way possible. I applaud all members of our local delegation for representing our students and families this legislative session, and would like to specifically thank State Representative Walt Lejay, as well as Senators Troy Carter and J.P. Morrell for helping move this bill forward. This bill is now awaiting Governor Edwards' signature. Our work does not end here, and I hope to see our elected officials continue to support public education here in New Orleans. This evening, I'm also pleased to share my preliminary proposal for revisions to the district-level funding allocation, which is the formula that we use to allocate money to our schools. If we move forward with these revisions, they will go into effect starting in the 2020-2021 school year, My preliminary proposal builds on a history of working to fund all schools in our system, and it elevates some of our school board's most important goals. The way we fund our schools must align with our school system's values. And what do we value? We value serving every child in every school in our city, no matter what their circumstances. We value diverse programming that aligns with the interests and abilities of all our students. Now, I would like to invite OPSB's Director of Interdepartmental Strategy, Charlie Crosby, to provide more information about my preliminary proposal. Charlie?
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent and board members. I'm here to share some more details on the superintendent's initial proposed revisions to the district level funding allocation. To reiterate a couple of points that the superintendent made, first, these are an initial set of proposals. They will only become finalized in the coming months. And second, if and when they are finalized, they will be implemented for the 2020-2021 school year. So not this upcoming school year, but the following school year. As I discuss the revisions, I'll cover 3 general agenda points or 3 general topics. First, some background on the district level funding allocation. Second, I'll discuss a bit the process and engagement that took place this school year to develop revisions. And finally, I will share some details on the superintendent's revisions. So first, for some background, the district level funding allocation is the formula or the methodology that the school district uses to allocate state and local funds to the schools within our district. Often kind of in conversation, folks refer to it as the differentiated funding formula. The key foundational principle within the district level funding allocation is that there are a set of dollars tied to every student that follow those students to the schools that they attend, and students that have greater needs receive more dollars to follow them to their schools for school funding. The district level funding allocation was initially implemented in the 2016-2017 school year, and the same formula for the funding allocation has been in place for the past 3 school years. This school year, the school district conducted extensive engagement with the school community to explore ways to revise the district level funding allocation. This slide details the engagement that took place throughout this school year. We held a series of working group meetings with representatives from the school community. In addition, we shared all findings from those working groups with the broader school community through many avenues and different channels. We also held small group and one-on-one meetings with members from the community. And finally, we shared the proposals that we will share tonight with citywide school leaders in a citywide meeting and all citywide members of the finance leadership at those organizations. Before I get into the superintendent's proposed revisions, up here now is the current district level funding allocation. The way that it works is every student receives a base set of funding to follow them to their school. In addition to that, if students demonstrate certain needs or characteristics, additional funds follow them to their attending school. The additional characteristics that we consider within our funding allocation are in the part of the slide that has the box around it in the middle. In exploring revisions to the funding allocation, we elevated some of the board's goals, and in particular, 2 goals really stood out in exploring these modifications. First, the goal to advance equity, and second, to increase the diversity of schools and programs offered in our school system. This slide demonstrates the proposed revisions, and I'll talk a bit about how they align to those board goals that were on the preceding slide. First, in the interest of advancing equity, you'll see there is an additional ELL tier within this revised district level funding allocation. This responds to and recognizes the growth in the ELL population within our school system in recent years, as well as the diverse set of needs within that population, so responding to those changes. Additionally, we have categories that are aligned to supporting students who are the most likely to become disengaged within our school system, students who have been in secure care facilities, students who have been recently expelled. All of that in the interest of advancing equity. And then aligned with supporting diverse programming and a diverse array of programming across our schools, we have revisions that provide additional supports for schools that are providing career and technical education to students to meet students' needs who are seeking such courses, as well as increasing support for gifted and talented. Finally, to reiterate the timeline, in the upcoming months, the revisions will be finalized, and once finalized, the revisions will go into effect for the 2020-2021 school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. As he said, that this will go into effect for the 2020-2021 school year. We will be soliciting feedback from our community on our website in the coming weeks. And then in the month of August, we're planning on coming back to the board to present the final recommendation. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Kelly Peterson to present our monthly portfolio update. Dr. Peterson leads the district's accountability work. Dr. Peterson?
Good evening, Vice President Ellison, Superintendent Lewis, and members of the board. I'll start the portfolio update by talking about the New Beginning School Foundation. On June 7th, we issued a Level 2 Notice of Noncompliance pertaining to several areas of noncompliance. Specifically related to the multiple allegations of grade changes, I would like to highlight and delineate. These are two separate allegations. The first allegation was related to quarter 2 math grades. The second allegation is related to grade changes that have impacted the 2019 graduating class. Additionally, failure to have safeguards in place to prevent staff and leadership from assessing systems to alter student files and records after being placed on notice of possible misconduct. Allegations that public records were falsified or otherwise altered. Allegations that contracts were procured in violation of their own charter board's policies. On June 25th, we have sent a follow-up letter with additional requirements outlining specifically related to JFK High School and student graduation eligibility. OPSB's investigation is ongoing. OPSB staff continue to be present daily at JFK to oversee summer school activities, communication with families, and the ongoing planning and support for students. I'll move into our notices of noncompliance. The New Beginning School Foundation, as previously mentioned, related to contractual obligations. The open notices of noncompliance related to the LDOE Corrective Action Plan. I would like to note we have received information from the LDOE, as several of our schools have worked diligently this year to close those by meeting the remedies as outlined. However, we do have 2 schools that have moved into an intensive corrective action plan, specifically Encore Academy and James Singleton, and thus their notices remain open. James Singleton Charter School, you will see the initial Level 2 special education notice of noncompliance, as well as the second one related to the intensive corrective action plan, as just mentioned. Encore Academy, also the open notice related to the intensive corrective action plan. Einstein Charter School, the transportation notice of noncompliance has been closed. However, on June 26th, an open notice of noncompliance Level 2 related to the failure to complete state standardized testing was issued. Moving into our annual areas of oversight, beginning on May 21st, we have begun to offer our authorizer charter board training, and really excited that we've had some engagement with these boards and their full boards. Both have opted in, as well as our onboarding schools as well, and excited to continue this work. As it relates to our financial oversight, for quarter 3, all of our charter management organizations and single site schools are within the best practice target. Renewals, as previously mentioned, related to renewal communications, our schools that are in the 2019-2020 renewal cycle, a direct communication went home to those schools from the superintendent. Our 2020-21 renewal cycle schools were to send home notification from the schools, and 84% of our schools have completed that task. The next slides highlight the schools that are up for renewal for our 2019-2020 renewal cycle. And these are our 2020-21 renewal cycle schools. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Peterson from board members before I move on?
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Peterson. And you said 84% of the schools have sent home the letters regarding renewal information.
Correct.
What happens with the other 16%? I don't know how many schools that is, who, if they continue to refuse to do that, how do we make sure that information gets to the parents?
Can you
Yeah.
also say who those are?
Yes, so at this time, there are 2 schools we have, and it's a network. We have Havens has not sent home the communications, Paul Havens, as well as our First Line school as well, that's up for renewal. And so we are working with them and have been communicating with them. They had plans to do that with their summer launch of things that were going home to their summer in the families. However, we've been pushing that requirement was set by May.
I guess what I would suggest or ask is that we set a deadline, and if the schools don't send home that information, that the district do it for them, unless there's some other alternative resolution that's on the table, but it just seems like that's unacceptable.
And if I may, certainly, Board Member Cleveland, we will if the schools do not send it. And I just want to be very, very clear, when we actually started this process to notify our parents, I was very clear to our school leaders that we are doing this to be very, very transparent, because in times where it was time for renewals of schools, many times we've heard from parents and say, I did not know my school was up for renewal. So this is a process that we're putting in place at the district level. And I will say I've had some pushback on this, but I will assure you if schools do not send this, we will be sending it on behalf of the district.
So my question would be to the superintendent, why are the school leaders pushing back?
Well, I can't speak specifically, but again, I will say this as the district, we are making sure that we're being very transparent with our families, making sure that they understand the rhythm of a charter application and its renewal, and making sure that our families have that information well in advance to understand a school is going through a renewal cycle. And again, those schools who are doing well is a great time to say in a year or in 2 years, our school is coming up for renewal, but we're doing well and we're excited and looking forward to the Orleans Parish School Board reviewing our school and looking forward to the renewal of our school to move forward. So that's where we are, but please know we're being very, very transparent, informing our parents about renewal of our schools. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Lastly this evening, I'd like to speak directly to the students and families that have been impacted by the recent finding at John F. Kennedy High School. First and foremost, on behalf of this district, I would like to apologize due to the careless and reckless actions of adults they trusted at JFK. You should be celebrating your senior graduation this month, but instead you have been forced to question the certainty of your future. You were underserved and misled. What happened to you is downright wrong. It's unacceptable, it's shameful, and it will not be tolerated. While I cannot turn back in time, the district is committed to doing everything possible to remedy this for our students. I have directed my OPSB staff to observe and engage where necessary to support summer school, which has already begun. And we are meeting weekly with New Beginnings to make certain a laser focus is on helping our seniors progress. We are requiring New Beginnings to send home weekly progress reports to our families. The district has begun offering direct counseling and other wraparound services to the senior in need of transition support. I also this evening want to make certain that the JFK's rising sophomore, juniors, and seniors are taking the courses needed to graduate on time. Therefore, we are requiring the following. New Beginnings to audit all student records under our supervision before the start of the school year and to adjust class schedule for the 1920 school year as needed. As far as the future of JFK and holding those responsible accountable, I have sent a letter to the Louisiana Inspector General asking Mr. Street to conduct his own independent investigation into this matter, assess if any criminal wrongdoing has occurred. The district is still assessing all relevant facts related to the specific wrongdoing and allegations at JFK and New Beginnings. I expect to give a full report of our findings and recommended actions later this summer. Regardless of the outcomes of this investigation, I want to assure the JFK community JFK will remain open this coming school year, and our priority is to ensure continuity and stability for all of our students and families currently enrolled. And I have assigned staff members to monitor the school and to provide the new JFK leadership team support if and when necessary. Finally, we cannot allow this travesty to happen again. Hence, the district needs to make certain every high school has knowledgeable counselors and handling of student records are done appropriately. So beginning this fall, we will host training for high schools on best practices in tracking student progress towards graduation. We will audit student records at every high school, working with experts in the field to help us design high-quality auditing tools. If we find a high school with inadequate performance, we will require mandatory training and a plan of action to address the findings. And if the situation persists, we will hold schools accountable and take the appropriate actions as called out in our charter school accountability framework. So again, on behalf of the district, I want to apologize again to the senior class at JFK High School and to let the board know the district will devote the necessary resources to help students impacted by the careless actions, and I mean careless actions of adults, that we will not tolerate this and we will make sure that we prevent this from happening in the future. Vice President Ellison, this concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. I'll yield to Board Counsel.
The first action item is action item 7.1, the Second Amendment to Orleans Parish School Board meeting schedule for 2019. The recommended action is that the Orleans Parish School Board amend its 2019 meeting schedule to delete the July 16th, 2019 committee meetings.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been placed on the table and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? No objection. Motion passes.
The second action item on the agenda is 7.2, policy adoption procedures. The recommended action is that it is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board dispenses with the requirement to present policy first and second readings to the policy committee and instead to allow first and second readings to occur during the regular board meetings for the month of June and July 2019, during which no committee meetings will occur.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ashley, second by Mr. Marshall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Motion passes. First reading, item 5.1. I'll yield to the administration. Staff?
Good evening.
Good evening.
This policy, as Dr. Lewis referenced in his opening remarks, House Bill 393 is awaiting the governor's signature. That requires in that legislation that the district create policy related to engaging with school leaders on how those funds will be used and how those funds will be distributed through a competitive process. So this policy is first draft of the administrative's efforts to create that policy in response to the new legislation.
Any questions? None? Thank you.
Great. The next item, 6.1, is that where we're moving to?
6.1,
Perfect.
yes.
I'll stay for that as well. This is another review of the proposed amendment to HA that just ensures that all charter schools and their charter bus operators are abiding by City Council's recent ordinance from earlier this year in February.
Thank you. We overlooked an item, and that is item 4.1, presentation of March 2019 financials and budget to actual.
As you'll see, starting on the balance sheet side of things, total assets of $62 million versus liabilities of $3.2 million. Nothing substantially changed from the prior month. Through March, revenues of 31.4 versus expenditures of 30.8 million, which leaves our ultimate projections, we'll get to in a minute, of 46.3 million worth of revenues versus 44.4 million of expenditures. Through March, a surplus of about $600,000. Anticipated end of the year surplus about 1.8, which is slightly higher than was presented last month. On the school front, Cypress, we're anticipating at this point a little under $800,000 deficit. That's about $200,000 better than last month. McDonough 35, just under a $500,000 deficit, and Harney with a $475,000 surplus. So ultimately, we're looking good at the end of the year for overall finances and project a surplus of a little over $1.5 million.
Mr. Seeley, just semantics, but could I again just ask that when we present a surplus, that we also qualify that with how much has been drawn on the fund balance? It's really not technically a surplus.
Yes.
Thank you.
All these figures include fund balance that has already been allocated to the budget. So this will, if we end the year with a $1.8 million surplus as projected this year, it will reduce the total fund balance usage that the board has previously authorized.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll yield to board counsel for all the other action items.
Thank you. The next action item is 7.3, House Bill 393, and suspension of OPSB policy DCBA district level funding allocation for fiscal year 2020. The recommended action is that it is recommended that the school board suspend the provision of OPSB policy DCBA that require, quote, presentation of the final revised funding computation to the school board and school operators at a school board meeting by not later than January 31st, so that the superintendent may implement revisions to the funding computation for fiscal year 20 in accordance with House Bill 393 of the 2019 regular legislative session, which is pending the governor's signature. Such modifications shall only be in response to the unique inflow of funds resulting from House Bill 393.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Sorry, if possible, could we just get a brief explanation? I'm not sure I understand this.
This is just to right now, this policy requires us to, and for any funding changes, to do it January 31st before those changes are implemented. And so what this will allow us to do is to get the extra $100 per pupil into the funding formula for the schools, as well as the $2 to $2.5 million we've been referencing for our needs. And so this is allowing us to implement House Bill 393 and pass that money along to the schools immediately, just as we've expressed to them.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any, is there any public comment?
No, ma'am, we have no public comment for any action item.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Motion passes. Next item, 7.4.
Item 7.4 is Resolution 0719, fiscal year 2020 general fund budget. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board adopt Resolution 0719, authorizing the fiscal year 2020 general fund budget of revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020.
Is there a motion
So moved.
with the waiving of the reading of the resolution?
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Brown is absent. Ms. Ellison?
Yes.
Mr. Cleben?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel is absent. Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Newusen is absent.
Next item. Item passes. Next item, 7.5.
Yes, ma'am. 7.5, award of contract for professional auditing services. It is recommended the board approve the evaluation committee's recommendation to partner with Luth, Spite and Company CPA LLC for professional auditing services. It was request for production number 19-0024 for a period of 3 years with 2 one-year options. Satisfactory negotiation of annual terms include an annual price acceptable to both OPSB and the auditing firm are $122,165 for fiscal year 2020, $116,055 for fiscal year 2021, $118,380 for fiscal year 2022, $120,745 for fiscal year 2023, and $120,745 for fiscal year 2024. The all-inclusive maximum price for each given year will not exceed $135,860.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I do have one
Your
question on
question?
this as well. I'm sorry. The reason why, is there a reason that you can offer in terms of why we only had one bidder on this contract?
Yeah, we sent out notifications to around 10 or 12 different accounting firms, and so we did do outreach from them. We have heard back from one or two that it was a little late in the year, that they were already booked up for other things. That this solicitation went out May 1st, but that's all we've heard at this point. But we did reach out to a wide number of firms. I will say also that this firm is certainly a well-respected firm. It's a DBE firm, and the price is about 15% lower than what we were paying prior.
Okay, thank you.
To that point, Ms. Tillman, can you talk a little bit about, does this add to our DBE goals as a district? Are we getting closer to the 35? Where are we at on this?
Certainly, we continue to have ways to go with that. This was but I will say that this was a direct result of one of our DVE elevator pitches, which we had, where we invited companies in. I think I let you know about that before. We invited companies in. This was one of the firms that came in, heard from what our future needs would be, and then responded to this bid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
And there is a
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Next item, 7.6.
Extension of the CEEAS contracts for Travis Hill Schools and amendments to related contracts. It is recommended that the OPSB exercise its option to extend the school management agreements for educational services at the Youth Study Center and the Orleans Justice Center with the Center for Educational Excellence in Alternative Settings for 1 year each, as provided for in sections 1.2.2 and 1.3.2 of the respective school management agreements. It is further recommended that the OPSB approve the amended payment provisions of each school management agreement, which allows CEEAS to receive the actual MFP allocation for each site. This contract was initially advertised competitively, and the board approved it at its April 2017 meeting. CEEAS is not a DBE and does not have a DBE commitment as part of its contract.
Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is on the table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Motion passes. Item 7.7.
The award of contract for middle school expulsion program. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board accepts the proposal from educators for quality alternatives to administer a program for 7th and 8th grade students who have been expelled or who are at risk of being expelled for the 2019-2020 school year, and to authorize the OPSB General Counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor.
Do we have a motion?
Another question, I'm sorry. This is in our general fund, and so does this mean that that OPSB's LEA is receiving MFP funds for the students enrolled in the program?
This program is being funded through other schools that are sent there, and we are subsidizing it through general fund contributions.
Okay,
We are not receiving money.
So there's a
to pay
fee.
for this.
There's a fee to the charter school that sends the student, and on top of that, this is a supplemental allocation.
Correct.
Okay. So this is just coming out of our general central revenues. It's not dedicated it's not coming from a specific source.
No, it's not from a dedicated source.
Okay.
It's something that we are paying for and supporting that we don't have a revenue tied to support it.
Is there a reason why it's not just a set number like 250 versus 300?
Yeah, so it's a maximum of $300,000. There's a substantial risk for the operator in terms of what the attendance might look like, and so we believe, based on historical numbers and what we're seeing from schools, that $250,000 will cover it, as does that operator. But should their attendance numbers drop because there are less students who need that service, that's an additional supplement if it's needed. So we'll work with them throughout the year on that.
Okay. I'd move to approve the contract.
Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes. Next item, 7.8.
Approval of state contract purchase for Dell laptops and iPads. It is recommended that the school board approve the purchase of Dell laptops and Chromebooks from SHI International Corporation in the amount of $571,760.06, and Apple iPads from Apple Inc. in the amount of $88,300 for public and non-public schools from the Louisiana State approved contracts. The total amount of this purchase is not to exceed $660,060.06. Funds are available in the Title I budget.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Have we explored the possibility of reducing that amount of money that's spent on those computers?
I think we need to explain what it's for.
Yeah.
Well, not so much what it's for. I think I understand what it's for. I mean, just my experience in the past in business, sometimes that we were able to get a better price outside of the state contract.
Yeah, because of Title I requirements and where we were in the year, state, obviously, as you're well aware, state contract, they bid this out competitively and offer the best price that the state was able to receive. And so we're going off that contract to make sure we get these computers in these schools as expedient as possible.
Okay, these computers will be used when?
As soon as they're ordered.
I mean, but it's basically for testing.
For school
correct?
testing and preparation, so they're familiar with the computers as they go to LEAP testing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is a motion on the table and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objection? No objection. Motion passes. Next item, 7.9.
It's Resolution 0819 regarding the First Amendment to Type B facilities lease for Audubon Gentili Terrace and estoppel certificate for leasehold mortgage. It is recommended that the school board adopt Resolution 819, which will permit the Audubon Gentili charter operator to be reimbursed for certain repairs to and alterations of the Gentili Terrace premises that have been completed to date, and to finance the costs of planned or reasonably expected repairs and alterations together with those completed to date. This is consistent with the OPSB's requirement that all schools who opt to lease properties pursuant to the Type B lease shall be responsible for any capital repairs and improvements to the property.
So move, waiving a reading of the resolution.
Is there a second? There is a second. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Brown is absent. Ms. Ellison?
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland?
Yes.
Mr. Koppel is absent. Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Newusen is absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, 7.10.
This is Resolution 0919 regarding Office of Group Benefits Analysis. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves Resolution 0919, authorizing an expenditure of $5,000 to obtain an actuarial rating and calculation of projected premiums for next year, and authorizes the OPSB administrator and the district's current health plan provider to provide OGB the requested actuarial and demographic data.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second with the waiving of the reading of the resolution?
Second.
Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ashley?
Yes.
Mr. Brown is absent. Ms. Ellison?
Yes.
Mr. Cleveland? Mr. Koppel is absent. Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Newusen is absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7.11.
2019-2020 Property and Casualty Insurance Program renewals. It is recommended that the Orleans Parish School Board approves the renewal of property, boiler, and machinery, terrorism, physical damage, general liability, sexual abuse, errors and omissions, auto liability, workers' compensation, excess liability, pollution liability, terrorism, violent malicious acts, disaster management, and flood insurances, and authorizes the board president to sign forms binding coverage.
I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question.
Question?
Just in looking through the documents, Mr. Seelan, I know we're facing an 8% increase in premium. I can't see any transparency on the fee that is being charged by Arthur Gallagher, and I may be missing it, but
I'm happy to show you. It's actually in that packet on the back. I think our annual fee is it right around, $45,000 a year that we pay for them.
And when was the last time we bid out the brokerage services?
Last year, and the board voted to, I think we initially brought it for a 3-year with 2 one-year extensions, and the board at that time decided to only do a 1-year contract. So this would be the final placement under that contract, and we need to rebid it again for this upcoming year.
For next year?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Stillings, it says that the group has committed to 35%.
Yes.
Where are they at on that commitment?
They hit it last year. I don't know where we're at this year. Yeah,
All
they
right.
hit it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Is there a motion on the table?
Yep, so motion, so moved.
We got it. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion on the table and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any objection? Motion passes. Next item, 7.12.
This is for a second amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement with the City of New Orleans regarding NOPD active shooter training. It is recommended that the board approve an amendment to the cooperative endeavor agreement between the OPSB and the City of New Orleans for use of the AP Trudeau building to extend the term of the cooperative endeavor agreement through June 30th, 2020, and authorize the general counsel to prepare the amendment.
Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Motion passes. Next item, 7.13.
Improvements in the Timbers office building. It is recommended that the board accept the bid from Colmex Construction in the amount of $105,160 and to authorize the OPSB General Counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor.
Is there a motion?
A question. Could we just hear what the improvements are exactly?
Yeah, this is coming from our enterprise fund, which we collect rent in this building to pay for it. And so what this is modification update, adding conference room, a large conference room that will allow people to meet, as well as media members, if necessary, to come in to hold conferences, as well as a waiting room and area for guests as they come into the building.
Are we? What's our confidence level that we're going to stay in this building long term?
We did some initial work looking to see if there were other areas and what options might be, and heard from realtors as well as others kind of in that industry that while we may be able to find a place close to cost, the concern was parking. We pay for this building about $480,000 a year is what we charge ourselves in rent. And what we heard back was there was no way we would be able to find a place in the center of the city that would provide parking for 130 employees anywhere near that price.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Marshall,
I'm good.
you good? Okay. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? No objection. Motion passes. Next item, 7.14.
Phase 2 repairs at the Hines Elementary School. It is recommended that the board accept the bid from Crescent Commercial Construction in the amount of $1,108,000 and to authorize the OPSB General Counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and it has been second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Motion passes. Next item, 7.15.
The Phase 1 roof repair at Warren Easton High School. It is recommended that the board accept the bid for repair of a section roofing and parapet walls at Warren Easton High School from Roof Technologies Incorporated in the amount of $120,969, and to authorize the OPSB General Counsel to prepare a contract for signatures of the board president and the contractor.
Any questions?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection?
Yes.
One objection. Item passes. May I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening again. The time now is 6:37. Board reconvene from executive session. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ashley,
Present.
Mr. Brown, Ms. Ellison,
Here.
Mr. Kleeman,
Here?
Mr. Koppel, Mr. Marshall,
Here.
Ms. Newey-Usden. Also present is Dr. Henderson Lewis Jr. and Skylar Rosenblum. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll yield to Board Counsel.
Item 8.1 discussed in Executive Council was Kwanzaa Wells et al. V. Orleans Parish School Board et al. CDC case number 2015-3055, personal injury litigation, and there was a settlement recommendation. It is recommended the Orleans Parish School Board approves the proposed settlement in this matter as recommended by its legal counsel.
May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? No objection. Motion passes. There are no further items on the agenda. May I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Meeting has been adjourned.